Brittany Griner was traded for a man named Victor Bout. Victor Bout was sentenced in the United States to 25 years in prison for conspiring to kill Americans. He's a notorious arms dealer. His nickname is the Merchant of Death. He was convicted for providing material support to a terrorist organization because he was attempting to acquire and export anti-aircraft missiles. He wanted to use these weapons. He wanted to literally give these weapons to terror organizations so that they could kill Americans. He was serving 25 years in prison here in the United States. Basically, he was one of the deadliest individuals in Russia after Vladimir Putin. This is like almost Osama bin Laden level terror. I know that, no, Osama bin Laden committed the 9/11 terror attacks, so it's hard to equate him to anyone else if there wasn't this publicized mass death on American soil. But I'm talking the motives of this guy are for the mass destruction of Americans, for the crime of being Americans, the same way that Osama bin Laden's jihad ideology was for the mass death of Americans because we were Americans, because we are Americans. This guy is obviously incredibly close to Vladimir Putin. And this is the thing. This is what Vladimir Putin does, is he sometimes unfairly holds American citizens, maybe sentences them heavily for less serious crimes so that he can use them as bargaining chips to free much more powerful, much more dangerous criminals that the United States has in custody. And that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened here, because we have former U.S. Marine Paul Whelan, who is also being held in prison by the Russians, and he was just left out of this deal. Like, are you telling me that a cannabis offense is the same as conspiring to kill Americans by providing material support and weapons to a terror organization? That's a one-for-one trade for you? I don't think so. I don't think so. And just to contrast the Biden administration's extremely poor negotiation here that has left an American citizen still incarcerated in Russia, contrast this with what President Trump did with Kim Jong-un, the dictator of North Korea. Kim Jong-un released 3 prisoners to Trump without Trump making any concessions. It was just Trump convinced Kim Jong-un to release these prisoners as a goodwill gesture to the United States. That's what we had under Trump. This is what we had. This is what we have in the Biden administration. So why did the Biden administration do this? They have to know that it's going to make them look weak. They know that an American citizen, this former U.S. Marine Paul Whelan, who is being charged or who was convicted by the Russians of espionage, even though he denies it, they have to know that this is not going to play well with the American public. So why did they do that? Well, Karine Jean-Pierre, the press secretary for the Biden administration, gave at least one version of the answer to that.
Treat Paul Whelan differently given the nature of the totally illegitimate charges they have levied against Paul. Unfortunately, the choice became to either bring Brittany home or no one. As the president said this morning, he will never stop working to secure Paul's release and return home, and he will not give up. On a personal note, Brittany is more than an athlete, more than an Olympian. She is an important role model and inspiration to millions of Americans, particularly the LGBTQI plus Americans and women of color. She should never have been detained by Russia. And I am deeply proud of the work that the president has done.
And there you have it. The 3 reasons. She should never have been detained by Russia. So they're arguing that the law that criminalizes the use of cannabis in Russia is illegitimate because that's the Biden administration's and the left's domestic agenda here. They want to illegitimize that type of law in another country so that it looks illegitimate here. That's the first thing. But the real reason here is they say Brittany Griner is so important because she's a role model and inspiration for so many people because she's LGBTQIA and she's a woman of color. Oh, okay. So you're using her as a puppet. So you use these supposedly immutable characteristics, this LGBTQIA status or identity, and the color of her skin to choose that she was more important than a former U.S. Marine.